Nice one, Francie's doing Veda, vlogging every day in April. I had that stuck in my head all day today. Nice one, Francie was talking to me about books and some of the books I've read, so I thought I would make a video about my inspiring books, the books that have changed my perspective and widened it and shaped it and helped me rewire how I think about complexity and living and life, and maybe get a little bit into ideas and beliefs and religion. If you don't like religion, you think it's a hot topic, and you're not open to ideas, you probably don't want to stay. For the rest of you, I think you can control your egos, can you? I have all my ideas set up. Right here. I lost my framing placement. Okay, the first book is by Jeff Olson. It's called The Slight Edge. Compound interest over time leads to change in different areas of your life. Your families, your finances, your relationships. It's all two edges. So the idea is you have one curve here and you have one curve here. So at first you don't notice it, but over time that exponentially grows. So it's focus intensity over time. It's sort of like Dave Ramsey's philosophy of focus intensity over time leads to unstoppable momentum, meaning when you start something and you get better and better and better, you continue to put that energy into it. Or you have a giant spinning wheel, right? And each time you grab the spinning wheel and turn it, it goes faster and faster with the same amount of effort that you apply. Things that are easy to do and things that are not easy to do. It's that struggle. It's doing the things that no one wants to do consistently over time to improve who you are. It goes along with a lot of leadership images in the book, which is my favorite, right? The Slight Edge. Great processor for understanding people and understanding psychology and decision making and how we take our circumstances, how we define and add meaning to what happens around us, and how we respond to it. Also, a book that Shay Carl loves, and it was part of the Shay Timber initiative. So I find my personal growth book through a lot of YouTubers. It's really cool. I've made videos all about these, so I could probably link some of those below. The next one is Carol S. Dweck's book about the growth mindset, which is this right here. Now, the similarity between The Slight Edge and this is there's only two sides to it. It's the story about where mindsets come from, and the book divides the fixed mindset with the growth mindset. One's the belief that we're fixed, we need talent, we need the gene for success. We can't improve ourselves. We have to find our dream. We have to find what we're best at. The growth mindset is all about embracing challenges, persisting in the face of setbacks, seeing effort as the path to mastery. The Slight Edge, very, very similar. Learning from criticism, turning wounds into winsome, finding inspiration through other people. And the fixed mindset is effort's worthless, criticism's always negative, it's not useful, and the success of others makes you feel threatened. I've wrote all my leadership books with these book ideas as well, so I've written as I read them, which is part of my leadership journal. So you got images, you got book list when I finish, and you got the leadership journal as I read. The next book is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now, don't get too defensive here. How to win friends and influence people does not mean how to manipulate people. It means how to empathize and connect and build relationships and remember people's names and smile. The acronym that I came up with after reading this book was CHAW, Gisnetti, Anafglatsis-Bilpalpka. Funny how I remember that, right? It's an acronym of every single practice in the book, and every time I need to remember a practice, I just call up that entire saying. If you want to call it like a leadership acronym for practices, the great thing about that book by Dale Carnegie is it's full of a lot of stories and history of people doing things like Abraham Lincoln. It's full of stories of Teddy Roosevelt. It's just got a lot of history in it and a lot of ways in which people are able to cooperate and cultivate relationships, and how you can kind of master people's egos, how you can not make sure that other people's egos cause you to really, really freak out and just react to everything. Recently read as well. I think I found that one from Shay Carl too. Another one from Shay Carl. This is like a whole Shay Carl book vlog. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Thoughts become, what is it? Like, thoughts become ideas, ideas become habits, and habits become actions, and actions harden into character. It's thoughts, ideas, actions, habits, character. A very, very short, but very, very inspirational read on the power of thoughts and the power of our egos and how we let our egos master us. The mind is a great servant, but a terrible master. I've said that a lot in my previous vlogs as well. But for Veda, I'm doing it. Here we go. Oh, I made a video for YouTube for every practice in this book. The Art of Possibility. The idea that possibility is not something that grows downward and spirals, but starts as a seed and grows outward. I've made a book on every single practice. I even made one for the art assignment. So you could literally read that book and watch my videos at the same time as you read it, which is fascinating. That book, it really dives deep into the we story, the ability for all of us to connect and make things. And I talked about this in the video I made about Esther Earl when I read The Fault in Our Stars and I read The Star Won't Go Out. The idea that we're all telling the story of humanity and the story of possibility, and we all have that opportunity to connect and understand each other and empathize and see how we're all valuable and human. That book, introduced to me by a college professor when I went to community college, amazing. His favorite word is possibility. So there you go. That one has a lot of leadership images in it as well. This next book series is the entire series of leadership images by Dr. Tim Elmore called Habitudes, the Habits and Attitudes of Leaders in Form of Leadership Images. And this is a 6-book series. I started reading this for FCCLA in 9th grade, and I've read every single book so far. I've written down some of the leadership images that have really spoken to me about ideas and attitudes, and just seeing things from different perspectives, seeing things in ways that you would never really appreciate. The coolest thing, though, is that on the FCCLA Council that I was done with in 2010, I passed the first 4 books down to the next council, and they've continued that tradition. So that's something really, really wonderful to see in terms of learning and cooperating. This is fun. The first book is on there's an art of self-leadership, an art of creating culture, an art of communicating, an art of leading others, and then the next 2 that came out were the art of transitions and the art of communication. They're all leadership images, so they're all lessons and principles taught. There's actually a religious set as well. They're taught through images inside the book and exercise at the end of each chapter and stories. It's really cool. I have the hiccups all of a sudden. I don't know why. The Dow of Poo and the Tao Te Ching. It was a creative writing class in college, and it talks about the Tao. It talks about spirituality and the power of now in the present moment and mindfulness and everything I've pretty much made a video about for the past month to 2 months. So you can go watch those too. But the Tao of Poo takes Winnie the Pooh and applies Taoism to it, which is actually fascinating. It takes each character. The rabbit's all about cleverness as a means to an end, the owl's all about knowledge as a means to an end, and Pooh is just living in the present moment, living in the now, just wants his delicious honey and to enjoy it. It's such a great book that takes Winnie the Pooh and sort of applies the lessons of Taoism and mindfulness, which is a very fascinating approach, something you do not see every day. I made videos about the power of now a lot by Eckhart Tolle, mindfulness, the ego, understanding our minds, understanding how to be at peace, understanding there's a difference between peace and happiness. Happiness is dependent on circumstance. Inner peace is about the joy of being, which has no opposite. Yes, no polarities made by the mind. You can watch videos on that. I'll probably make a really good video on that soon. Once I finish the book, I'll summarize the ideas in it, if I can. And if those turn into a half-an-hour video, which could happen. We'll see. Drama, all the things the ego creates, resistance to what is. All these books have similar ideas and connections. I'm starting to find the core fundamental truths, because every book I read has the same fundamental truths in it. Cosmos by Carl Sagan. I think I was looking at the ASAP Science Book Club, and I actually read that book, and I watched the series on Netflix by Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yes. Amazing. Amazing. Stardust. I Stepped Out of a Supernova, things like that. City of Dreaming Books by Walter Mowers. It's actually a book about a universe or a town of, it's all book people. It's all book related, and there are creatures, and it's about books and reading books and huge libraries, and the main character is a dinosaur. I just thought that was very fascinating. I read it in book club in high school, and that was really cool. So you should definitely check out that book. The language and the wording and description of the universe and how the creatures operate and the journey that dinosaur takes, and like it's just really cool. The Divergent series by Veronica Roth. Yes. What's really fascinating to me is reading these books and applying the lessons inside of either of them. One of my favorite ideas here from The Power of Now is when you get afraid, when you cope with life's challenges, you either shut down or you wake up. You become more unconscious and try to escape reality and say, let's get the hell out of here, this is scary. Or you will actually become more conscious and present and take action and respond to it. And in Divergent, Tobias says something about fear doesn't shut you down, it wakes you up. There's your mindful analogy, people. I mean, come on. Great series, actually. Oh, The Secret. So when I was really, really young in 9th grade, I read a book called The Secret, and it talked about the universe. I never really had a religious ideology imposed on me or impressed on me as a kid. So I was very, very free reign in thinking about ideas in the universe and reading about the soul and Jesus and just a bunch of stuff. I've come to really be interested in it because I see the reality that they point to, and I see the fundamental life truths in the teachings. Depending on what you believe, right? All spiritual teachings to me lead to the same source, so I can see what's in each teaching. But The Secret gave me the whole universe idea, and manifestation, and frequency, and the presence of being, and ideas become habits. You just think the thought, and it's manifested in real life. Opportunities come to you. Just a crazy idea. Something the average, like, 7th to 8th grader probably wouldn't be reading. Riding the Subway with Heidi. I read this right around the time that I read The Fault in Our Stars, and I was reading about cancer, my grandmother passed away, so it talks about the stages of grief, and it talks about Heidi's life. It's kind of similar to Esther Earl's story, except there's not much internet involved with it in terms of her story. It's a lot of the stages of grief, and it's got leadership images in it, and it just talks about, being vulnerable, and talks about Heidi's life and how life is like riding a subway. You just hop on and off trains, and sometimes you stop and you get off and get on with somebody else. You never see him again. Riding the Subway with Heidi. Amazing book, nonfiction book on how to deal with grief and how to think through those things. Something that has stuck with me for a very, very long time. I read it right around the time I think the YouTube abuse stuff was happening too, which is crazy, right? Yep, Riding the Subway with Heidi by Charles Schmidtke. You can see all the notes I wrote on it. And then I'm like, for the love of Heidi, one more page. One of the greatest lines in that book is that everyone gets wet, but we all swim differently. It's like John Green's quote, right? You don't get to choose whether or not you get hurt in this world, but you do have a say in who hurts you. That analogy of getting wet but swimming differently helps us describe feelings. We all have the feelings, we all eat them, but we all cope differently with the feelings. But we're all human, so amazing book. I could probably talk for hundreds and hundreds of hours about all of this stuff. Wave imagery in grief instead of closure and moving on. Ride the waves of life. The Flinch by Julian Smith is very great. It talks about flinching forward in life and facing challenges and not giving into that feeling of when you want to do something but you're too afraid to do it. Not giving into this feeling. You gotta flinch forward and face the fear and see that the fear is all in your head. A dog in real life trying to eat you is a lot different than a dog in your head trying to eat you, your ego. All fear goes back to fear of the ego. Don't make your life into autopilot and live your life down a corridor. Take side doors. The whole door analogy. I think Rowan Ellis made a video about that door analogy, which is really, really fascinating to see that connection. Challenge yourself. Remember things easy to forget. Read above your level. Do things that make you feel alive. Work with your hands. Get some scars. Leave interest. Build something that is amazing and terrifying, and stay uncomfortable. And then the last book I have, I think in here, I've got so many more in here. There's so many, guys. I've read so many awesome, full of leadership, philosophical books. The last one in here is called The Fault in Our Stars. I made a really great video called The 9 Lessons, or The 9 Faults in Our Stars. And I made it after I watched the movie, and it was raining outside. So I really felt alive after watching that. I think it's because I read the book before I watched the movie, and because it really talks a lot about the universe and interconnectedness and the fact that cancer and disease doesn't define who we are, similar to Riding the Subway with Heidi. The stages of grief and how we go through, and we learn to disidentify ourselves from our circumstances and start to live and express ourselves through our labels and not let labels define us and lead us into expectations. And The Fault in Our Stars, that story of just two simple people being present with each other, Hazel and Augustus, and the cosmic laughter and the humor in that story, and Isaac that goes blind, and the fact that his girlfriend leaves him because he goes blind. I mean, come on. She was only with him for that one moment. Bummer, right? I think really big in terms of human value and interest in ideas, and A Fault in Our Stars really summed it up really well. There was a scene in the book, which wasn't in the movie, but it was in the book, where Hazel's talking to her dad, and Hazel at some point says she feels like she has to notice it in all of its complexity and see the life truths. And I got a lot I got a lot out of that, actually. We cannot know pain without joy. Omnis cellula is cellula. Everything is everything, recycled everything. Being and feeling alive and appreciating the present moment, then competition and treating things as a means to an end and manipulating people and just giving into your ego. Dogs pissing on fire hydrants is something that dogs do, not something individuals do to the universe. Try to imagine the world without your story. Try to imagine the world without who you are and the place you have in it. And the universe would not be what it is exactly without you, which is a fascinating idea. Home is where the heart is. The world's not a wish-granting factory. We owe a debt to humanity, happiness for other people's happiness, and doing what they want. Augustus's letter, too, is really, really great. His eulogy for Hazel, actually, not letter, eulogy. Him talking about how she treads lightly and she was loved deeply instead of being loved far. And all you have to do to be loved deeply is pay attention to the person right in front of you. Be present with them. Don't ignore them, acknowledge them. And that's that. Yeah. So there you go, Francie. There are my books, my inspiring book expression. I've made videos, I think, about all of these books. Have I? Maybe. I make a lot of book videos. So, that's all that. Thank you for watching. Keep being your awesome self. And don't forget to read. And learn and grow and enjoy yourself. Joy in yourself. Everybody, Polka. I will see you tomorrow. Or maybe tonight. Or sometime. I don't know.